program, the Corporate Communications Manager for SKELEC, Patrice Harris. Power Talk is a radio program brought to you by the St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited, where we aim to discuss with you all of the latest happenings at SKELEC, share relevant information, and to also hear from you as to how we can serve you better. This morning, I'm joined by two distinguished gentlemen who have been with SKELEC for several years, and they are crucial parts of ensuring that we have power at our homes. I will allow each of these gentlemen to introduce themselves.
Yes, good morning. Morning, everyone. I am Javid Gilbert, Control and Operations Superintendent.
Good morning, Javid.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on here once again. No stranger to the radio.
Blessed morning to everyone out there. I'm Vaughn Francis, Superintendent, Control and Operations.
Good morning, Mr. Francis. You're also no stranger. You're not here as often as Mr. Gilbert, but you have been here with me before. This morning I have the two of the superintendents from the Control and Operations Department of SKELEC, and we will be discussing all of the information that you need to know as it relates to digging and cutting trees. Now, in the past, we have had some challenges with persons when they go and they dig. They don't inform SKELEC, or they go and they cut trees and they create hazards. So that is why we felt it was important to have this radio program this morning to discuss the importance of and all of the things that you need to know before you dig and before you cut trees. So gentlemen, what are some of the most common hazards that are associated with digging near electrical lines, and how does SKELEC work to mitigate these risks? So how do we prevent these hazards from happening? So let's talk about the hazards first and then the how.
Yes, good morning. The normal standard procedure is that a customer would call in requesting that they have work to be done in a certain area, and we will advise them from the information that we receive how to go about in getting that job done, or that we will have to be there during that time of digging or cutting of trees, planting of whatever posters or whatever they are doing, and that main road or that roadway.
Okay, and I just wanted to, as I was listening to you, make that distinction that when we speak about digging, we're not talking about digging with a shovel, right? We're talking about excavation work.
Yes, excavation work. Sometimes it could be they are cutting trees that are near to power lines, and they would like us to provide whatever information the necessary whereabout in having us assisting them to get that job done.
So we're talking about people with backhoes, with trucks. That if they're digging out foundations, or if they're planting posts for signs, that type of work.
Yes, those type of work.
All right, Mr. Francis, you have anything to add about the hazards?
One of the most frequent hazards we have is irate customers. When the neighbors decide to do things and not involving the public about not involving utility companies, SKELEC on a whole, along with Flow and the water department. That's a hazard they have there when they cause inconvenience to other neighbors around them. That's one of the major hazards we have. The calls start to ring out, and people are angry about losing the power, they're losing the water, nobody notify them about. That's one of my major hazards.
So they go and so explain the scenario to us. They go and they dig. What happens while they end up being inconvenienced?
End up damaging power lines, water line, utility cables, shut down the internet.
So power, water, and utility. And nobody wants to be without any of those.
Inconvenience.
Nobody wants to be without any of those. And on the, I know we had some instances, at least since I joined SKELEC, we had a major outage because of improper digging. So let's talk about that as well. how can we prevent something like that? What happens in a case like that? What would have caused it? Let's talk about that and also explain more of the inconvenience. That outage wasn't just a small localized outage in a particular area. So let's talk about that.
Yes. Okay, when the person or the private individuals dig a certain area, because what we know, there is a plan, like when it comes from planning, where the utility companies have this space along the island main road, or wherever around the island where we're supposed to put our infrastructure. And there are times that customers, probably for whatever reasons, they need to do some work, and in doing that work probably would involve being close to our infrastructures, our various utilities infrastructure, and not approaching us, and they go along doing their own thing, like an excavator or backhoe dig, puncture one of our HV cables, maybe puncture cable TV flow, fiber optic cable, water department, and that will cause major disruptions of power, all the supplies around the island, depending on certain areas, large swaths of areas around the island. And that will now then take us some time to get back up the electricity, costing the company money that was not budgeted for those type of work. Yes.
And also a loss to us, because we don't get to bill if we don't have power.
And how can we charge them for those number of hours of us not giving power to our customers, all that KV, all that power that will money that we could have been pulling in at the time? How that customer would be able to stand up to that bill? We don't know.
So yes. you speak about the inconveniences and power outage, major power outage, but I'm sure there are some other hazards that can happen, because we really want to use this as an opportunity to educate the public, because maybe they feel, man, I could do it on my own and I could go and I could dig, and they don't know their danger. What is the major danger, Francis? Major danger of digging without having a conversation with SKELEC, water, all of the other utilities?
One of the major dangers is loss of life. I'm sure there are many operators out there, excavator operators, back operators, who could attest to this, who have so many times gone back to SKELEC after digging and getting in contact with these cables, reach out and say, bye, we never seen nothing like that before. So I'm just simply saying, to prevent all this, we don't know the history of the area you're working in, reach out to the utility companies, ask questions, get the proper guidelines, and you move from there. Don't just get up and decide. Somebody call you for a job, they want this thing dig, you start to dig. No. Help us, that we can help you, let us save lives and keep everything down to a nil.
Yes, and also to add to that, Patrice, customers who are building beyond their premises, their boundary lines, that is also a concern that we have been recognizing, that they do their footing, they do their construction work, and then bam, they touch one of our cables, our LV lines, and we have to come there and deal with it. Sometimes they build beyond it, and then they would be reaching out to us and say that we are approaching their boundaries. We're in, when you go to the planning board and you do the investigation, is them building beyond their property boundary line. So those are also concerns that we have come across, that people, maybe they're striving for more land, and at the sacrifice of our customers of SKELEC, of us providing that service that is needed throughout our communities. Yes.
People get smart, don't they?
Yes.
Yes. At SKELEC, safety is our number one priority. Safety for our staff, safety for our customers, consumers as well. So we're having this conversation because electricity is something that you cannot see. You can see when you turn on your lights, you can see something powered up, but you cannot actually see the electricity running through our lines. Again, we also have a lot of underground infrastructure. That's why we're speaking about digging. You will not know where they are. Our team knows where they are because we are the ones that planted them. That is why it's important for you to have a conversation with us before you go and dig, because we can have major outages that are caused if you have contact with our lines. We can have, you can cause damage to yourself. I don't want to go as far as to say you can get electrocuted, but that is the case. That is a reality of the depth of the electrical hazard that can take place. So again, we want to encourage you. Now, as we're having this conversation, we're speaking about digging, but we need to talk about the cutting of trees as well. Some people, they go and the trees are going wild, or they go vigilante and they want to take care of the things themselves. So what is the proper way to deal with when you recognize that there is vegetation going over on lines? What is the appropriate thing to do?
Get in touch with the utility companies once more. Don't assume when you cut the branches that going to touch, it's far away enough, or nothing going to happen. When it happens, then come and fix it back. We're going to come and fix back the line. And no, it's not so easy. It is a cost and an inconvenience to the people. So please, just be with us. Work with us with this. Reach out. We are going to do our best to keep this power, utility, everything running up and running to serve you, the people.
So you said I can't go up on my ladder and cut the tree?
If it's not close to a power line, if it's in the back of your yard, far away, if you're going to fall on your roof, it's up to you. Mash up your roof, it's okay. It's okay.
So the appropriate thing to do, because that's a difficulty, that's a challenge that we've been having with people cutting trees and lines coming down. That's a challenge that we've been having.
Yes, and even to add to that also, when probably construction work is going on in an area and the concrete truck is coming through and the pump truck and everything, and sometimes depending how they position themselves, and they recognize sparks coming, and then after sparks there's line coming down. There's a loss. I think we experienced that in one of the areas about 2 weeks ago. I think it was in the Old Road area where that construction work was taking place, and during that period of time, I think the bucket, the concrete truck pulled down the HV, the LV poles that caused a power outage, and then also further cause inconvenience to them because apparently they need electricity to do whatever work during the laying down of the concrete and stuff like that. So it's still a loss to us, and then it end up become a loss to them because the concrete in the concrete truck hardening and they cannot do nothing about it.
Oh, so, wow.
Yes.
And it's going to be the one that gets a phone call, right?
Yes,
come and put back on.
yes.
Start to call Francis. Francis, we need power back right away.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm happy that because I was going to talk about that as well. Because we also had an instance over in Newtown a few weeks ago where a truck pulled down some lines just right there in front of NHC.
Yes.
Right? So that small, now road.
Yes.
So we need to have a conversation with the drivers of the trucks. You need to be vigilant when you're driving. But then again, what do we say to them? How do we prevent this? Because that outage in Old Road took a long time for us to get the power back on.
Yes, it did.
So what message do we send to the truck drivers
Be
to make
careful,
our life easier?
Be vigilant. When approaching these areas, you slow down, take your time, have someone to guide the truck through. Normally, there's a second passenger along with the trucks. They normally use a rod to just lift the lines above the truck.
Okay.
And most of this, the complaints we get most of the time is from the cable lines. Yeah, the cable have a heavy set wire that is real tough. Once it's hooked, it is pulling. So they have to be careful.
We have callers? All right. Let's take some callers, gentlemen. I think they love when Javid is here. We all have callers when Javid is here. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning, Miss Harris. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Jackie, can you put him up a little bit? I can't hear him as clearly. The volume is a bit low.
Can you hear me good?
Yes, much better. Good morning.
Wonderful. I want to continue right where you all left off about that incident in Old Road, because I was affected by it. And I spoke to two gentlemen from your department about it, and I also touched base with Flo. And I was made to understand that education is key. Now, we all know we have community activities, right? And, you know, the band them sometimes try to go through the villages. I find that persons who are building, right, the wires are too low going across the road. Now, I was made to understand that there is a distance that the cable and flow wires have to be from the power lines. Maybe you could let the public know, because I was looking at it from a customer and saying, well, why is it the wires can't go closer up to the post? The other suggestion that I'm looking at is maybe SKELEC might need taller poles, because we are living in this society again that we have, like I said, trucks passing through, and then we have some ignorant drivers who know a construction is going on and refuse to move their vehicle because they'll say, watch here, I live here, I park my vehicle here, I'm home. Right? And that's the ignorance of it. And that's something that is kind of hard to deal. I mean, you could ask them kindly that, hey, I'm doing some work here. Is it possible that you could move your vehicles along, because some big truck is going to be passing? If they don't want to, I'm not sure what the law can do about that. But nevertheless, there's something need to be done about the lines. The lines need to be higher. You know, I know at one time SKELEC was doing some underground lines. I'm not sure what happened to that project. But nevertheless, something need to be looked into it, some better coordination between SKELEC, flow, and cable, so these lines can be higher, so we have a better flow of traffic when you have these big trucks and when you have the bands passing. Thank you very much for listening. Patrice, keep up the good work as usual.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I think that was Bucky. I think if I could recognize his voice. Gentlemen, which of you want to take what Bucky would have mentioned? He spoke about the distance of the lines, so I'm assuming the other utilities, their lines from power lines. Is it possible, what's that distance that he's talking about? Let's educate the public.
The distance between the lines. The distance is just a common sense thing between this. It comes boils down to distance. The utility workers with cable, TV, and line are flow. They don't want to get themselves too close to the power lines, because they know of the hazard.
Yes.
So they're not risking their life to go that high. That's why there's a distance, the separation between the power lines and
the other utility
the data cables and beautiful. So it's like they're not going to take that risk. So they're not going to go much closer. And even so, in terms of the houses along the side of the road, some of the people, they don't get involved in raising the brackets high enough. So you always find out the cable lines, which is much lower than ours, you come across at a lower height, and that is one always exposed. It is always exposed to the passing traffic. And I guess sometimes it seems like the higher we go with our poles too, it's like the bigger the trucks get. It's crazy.
We have monster trucks.
But we just gotta be careful.
Yes.
Also, I could add there too that currently I think there is a standard SKELEC is currently working at in terms of presentation to the company for new customers in application of electricity. What is the standard height of their weatherhead and the pole coming so the service wire could come across there, and so we could go away from trucks pulling down the service line. But what we also recognize in areas that have been built up long before we have electricity, we have these modern technologies that we are so enjoying today. Houses were there, and some of these houses basically were built right on the boundary of the land, and so the poles that we have to put there it would not be the tallest pole that we have to find some way to provide the customers with electricity, because it's a human right, it's a right that we give a service to as many individuals and provide that service to as much people. So when you find in the older villages, that could be
I think Old is one of them for certain.
Yes, one of the older villages, yes.
All right, we have another caller. Good morning, caller, you're live, but we lost that caller. Hopefully that caller will call back. We have another caller. Good morning, caller, you're live.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I would like to know if SKELEC has any plan for the future to provide 110 voltage from the poles and to do underground wiring for future development or project.
All right. Thank you, caller. I can definitively say that a lot of conversations are taking place as it relates to the 110 from the poles, and you also mentioned about underground for new projects. Yes, as well. We recognize the importance of getting this done. I think some of the other difficulties we have is the time it takes to get a lot of what we need on island. So, for example, a good bit of our equipment comes out of Europe. It has a very long lead time to get here. That is impacting as well how much of what we can do and how quickly we can get what we need to get done. But I can definitively say that these are conversations that are taking place and the direction that the company wants to go in. Gentlemen, y'all want to add on? I dealt with that.
I just want to say yes, we have already started that process. We have some gated communities, the underground supply. You make your applications and SKELEC will do the way forward for you.
Yes.
Yes, and I think
Another caller? Two more callers. Javid, it's you. Good morning, caller. Good morning. Okay, we lost him. You were saying about the...
Yes, with that same underground supply. Yes, as Mr. Francis said, we invokes in that, and also from what I know, from what I learned, that we are, when there is a new development, we have two estimates that goes to the ministry, the underground estimate and the overhead estimate.
And we try to encourage the underground,
we encourage that also.
All right, we have another caller. Good morning, caller, you're live.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm wonderful. I want to officially applaud both two superintendents you have there, and I think they're doing a nice job of rolling out and having everybody properly informed.
Yes,
they need to keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Give both of them a pat on the shoulder for me.
I'll give them a hug for you.
Kind. All right, kind.
All right, any more callers, GQ? Sorry? We have another caller. We don't have any more callers. Okay, sorry, I wasn't reading lips very well today. All right, gentlemen. So we are going to begin to wrap up the program.
Yes.
Let's take this opportunity. One, we keep telling people to call. Like, who do they need to call? What numbers do they need to call? Who do they need to ask for? What do they need to say? That's the first thing. I want us to also take the opportunity to make that strong appeal again, because hurricane season is coming up. We definitely want to get the branches away from the lines, but there's a right way to do it. People are doing construction, they're digging. We want everybody to be able to get their construction work done, but again, there's a right way to do it. So let's make that appeal for appropriate measures to take when we are digging, when we are cutting trees, and what was the other thing I said about who to call? All right, you gonna go first, Javid?
Yes. When doing any of those work mentioned, digging, cutting of trees that are near utility lines and water main lines, make a call to us. You could call our emergency number 465-2013, I think 661-2013, 600 dial free via cell phone, 465-2000, and then you will be those information will be taken up. Also, we have Facebook. Utilize the Facebook media also in terms of sending that information to us. We will receive it from Patrice. We will receive it from some somehow we will receive it, that information, and then we'll arrange with you, come visit, see what's the situation. We will cut the area of the tree that is that would potentially affect our line if you cut it on your own, and then you will go ahead and you remove the residue. Same thing with the digging. We'll proceed as well in terms of having someone there doing the job. More hopefully when those jobs are done, especially when it comes to digging, everything comes with a cost. So depending on what time of the week, maybe you want to do it on a Saturday or Sunday, most convenient, it will attract a cost more than likely. If during the week it will attract a cost, but it will be lower. But we will work in making that convenience as much as possible, so you can have that job done.
I have a question, Javid. So if I want to dig today, I can call today? And
yes, and it wouldn't necessarily attract a cost, because we'll have someone.
So if I want to dig today, I can call today. I'm going to dig right now.
Call. Oh, sorry. No. Give us at least 2 days heads up.
Okay, that's what I
give us at least 2 days heads up, so we could plan our walk around, having an employee there to see what is taking place and direct the excavation.
Okay, very good, Mr. Francis.
I just want to say once more, cutting of trees and excavation. Be very careful, be vigilant, and reach out to the utilities companies. Again, if you don't know the history of the area, if it's in Warner Park in the center of the football field, you could dig there, because nobody put nothing out there. But along the roadways, especially along the roadways heading from the town to the country, especially in the Basti area again, where we have a lot of underground utilities, what have been there for years before some of those new operators start to operate vehicles on the road. They've been laid there for the purpose of moving the country forward. And now we just come along fresh, ain't no going on, just start to dig. Please get in touch.
Gentlemen, while I have you here and I was planning my wrap-up, I realized that this weekend is Easter weekend. And people are going to go out with their children to fly kites.
Yes.
What message what should persons be mindful of this weekend and into Monday when they go to fly kites and over power lines?
Yes. When you are going out to fly kites, it's a traditional thing, something that we do when we have children. That's one of the first things that we do with our child. Take them out on a play field, or during back in the day in a cane field, if there's no play field there, that you go and you fly your kites. Customers just fly your kite far away from any overhead lines. There's nothing concerned underground, because sometimes you walk in an area where underground cables there. During your morning exercise or afternoon exercise, every day you're walking probably in that area where underground cables. But overhead lines, try to fly somewhere where there is no overhead lines, because there is possible exposure to electrocution if you put yourself in those situations, and we don't need that on an Easter weekend or never. So try to avoid overhead lines as much as possible.
What happens if my kite gets away from me and gets caught up in a line? Do I go and I tug on it and I want my kite?
I will say to that one, please no tugging of the lines.
All right.
Any tugging will cause the lines to get too close to one another, and that will cause a major hazard.
Yes, more than likely an outage.
And we don't want any outage, because neither myself, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Francis, or any of our teams want to do any extra work this Easter weekend. So please work with us. Okay?
And also, Patrice, driving, because I know there will be a few fetes. I already listen to the radio and hearing a few fetes that are taking place. I know each time there is a fete, there's some pole that's going to be sacrificed. Yes. So try to avoid the poles. Do not drink and drive. Have someone, a dedicated driver, to drive you back and forth. If you know you're going to enjoy yourself, have someone, a non-alcoholic, someone who just wants to drink Malta Piagilla. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, these are very important safety tips. When we get festive in all ways. And when you get festive and you get to enjoy yourself, it means that we can't enjoy ourselves because there's a hazard that you have created. And Francis has to get out of his bed, Gilbert has to get out of his bed, and they start calling me. And I have to get out of my bed too. So, for the benefit of all of us, enjoy yourself, but in a safe manner. When it comes to the driving, I know you all say the poles come out in the road to meet you. Well, if they come out to meet you, just try to go away from them, okay? You don't have to accept the invitation. Just go away from them. It's very important because when we have these outages, especially when people hit these poles, the amount of manpower that is required to get that pole replanted, if it's a transformer on it, to get it put back up. Persons who are out of power and will be out of power for a significant time. The loss that the company gets, and guess what? It's a charge that we pass on to our insurance, to the insurance back to the consumer for our pause and for our effort as well. So you don't want to have to go through all of that hazard. We actually have a radio program dedicated to speaking about this safe driving and collision with poles. We want you to be safe. If you're flying kites with your children, go in an empty field, we got in a pasture, we got in a football field, go into one of them and fly your kites there. Stay away from the lines. It can cause a serious hazard. Not only that, if the kite flies away and gets up into a line, leave it. Do not go and touch it, please. If you're doing excavation work, call SKELEC 465-2013. That's our emergency hotline. You can call 661-2013 or 600 or 465-2000. Numerous ways that you can get in contact with us. You can also reach out to us on the different social media pages. Yes, you can call a SKELEC employee, but again, the appropriate way is to go through the emergency hotline because we have to take contact information from you. We have to get directions from you. We need somebody to call if we can't find exactly where it is. So please be safe. Enjoy this weekend. It's the end of March. Have a happy Easter. We're closed for the Easter holiday period. When we're back next month, we're talking about safety and lineman appreciation. So thank you for joining us today on this edition of Power Talk. Thank you, Mr. Francis, for joining us, and thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Thank you to our callers. Remember that SKELEC is the nation's leading utility provider, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Bye-bye.